Imagine a king who was more than just a ruler, a demigod with unmatched strength, yet deeply flawed, facing the greatest enemy of all, mortality itself. The Epic of Gilgamesh is more than just a story from ancient Mesopotamian mythology. It is a profound exploration of what it means to be human, a journey of friendship, loss, and the quest for eternal life. Gilgamesh's tale, though ancient, resonates deeply with modern audiences, as we too grapple with the questions of meaning, legacy, and mortality. This story is not just about battles with monsters, it's about the greatest battle of all, the battle to find purpose in a fleeting life. Who was Gilgamesh? Gilgamesh was a figure steeped in both legend and historical reality. He was likely a real historical king of the Sumerian city-state of Uruk, whose reign occurred sometime between 2900 and 2350 BC. Gilgamesh's legend began to take shape during the third dynasty of Ur, c. 2112 c. 2004 BC, and his name has since become synonymous with heroic exploits, wisdom, and above all, his quest for immortality. The Epic of Gilgamesh, written in Akkadian during the late 2nd millennium BC, has been passed down through generations. Gilgamesh was not just a king. He was deified after his death, becoming a figure of worship, a reflection of humanity's desire to transcend the physical limitations of life. But why is this story still relevant today? Simply put, the themes it explores are timeless. Whether it's Gilgamesh's thirst for glory, his profound friendship with the wild man Enkidu, or his eventual realization that immortality is beyond reach, the lessons embedded in his tale resonate with modern questions about leadership, friendship, and the meaning of life. Was Gilgamesh a real king? While Gilgamesh's status as a mythological hero is undisputed, most historians agree that he was also a historical king of Uruk. Scholars like Stephanie Daly suggest that his reign likely occurred between 2800 and 2500 BC. Gilgamesh's name appears in several historical inscriptions, including the Tumul inscription, which credits him with building the walls of Uruk. This historical evidence supports the notion that Gilgamesh was not just a legend, but a real ruler whose deeds inspired a centuries-long mythic tradition. One of the most intriguing aspects of Gilgamesh's historical life is the discovery of texts that detail his burial. According to these texts, Gilgamesh was buried under the Euphrates River, and the workers of Uruk diverted the river's flow to accomplish this. The fact that his burial was deemed worthy of such an extraordinary effort speaks to the significance of his reign. The modern rediscovery and controversy. The modern rediscovery of Gilgamesh's epic opened up a treasure trove of controversy, particularly with regard to its impact on the Bible. The story of the flood, in particular, drew intense scrutiny from scholars and the public alike. George Smith, a scholar at the British Museum, was one of the first to translate the flood narrative from tablet Ons in the 1870s, publishing it as the Chaldean account of Genesis. The parallels between this story and the biblical flood caused uproar, with some suggesting that the Bible's account was directly influenced by older Mesopotamian myths. One of the most controversial figures in this debate was Friedrich Delitzsch, a German Assyriologist, who in 1902 argued that the flood narrative in Genesis was copied from Gilgamesh. His radical views sparked widespread criticism, and he found himself increasingly marginalized as a result. Delitzsch's claims, however, did highlight a broader truth, that many biblical stories may have roots in older pre-existing mythologies from Mesopotamia and beyond. The Epic of Gilgamesh. A tale beyond time. Long before the rise of empires and kingdoms, before the stories of gods were etched in stone, there stood a city, shining like a beacon upon the plains of ancient Mesopotamia. Its walls were tall, its ziggurats touched the heavens, and its king was mighty beyond compare. He was called Gilgamesh, part man, part god. And this is his story, a tale of friendship, hubris, loss, and the ultimate quest for meaning. The tyrant king of Uruk. In the vast lands of Sumer, there was a city like no other Uruk. It stood as a symbol of human achievement, a marvel of architecture and civilization. Its walls stretched for miles, guarding its people, its treasures, and its ruler. And the ruler was Gilgamesh, a king whose name would be remembered for ages, not only for his strength but for the lessons his life would teach. Gilgamesh was no ordinary man. Born of the priest king Lugalbanda and the goddess Ninsun, he was blessed with the blood of the divine. He was taller than any other man, his strength rivaled only by his unmatched beauty. Yet for all his gifts, Gilgamesh was not content. His heart was hard and his spirit restless. As king, Gilgamesh was revered, but he was also feared. His people trembled under his rule. He demanded admiration and worship, not as a leader, but as a god in human form. He took what he pleased. Even the wives of the nobility were not safe from his desire. His insatiable hunger for control and recognition knew no bounds. The people of Uruk, who once looked upon their king with pride, began to despise him. In the privacy of their homes, they whispered prayers to the gods, begging for deliverance from their tyrant king. The tragic death of Enkidu. In the end, the gods do not forget. They do not forgive. And they decided that one of the two friends must pay the price for their defiance. The gods decreed that Enkidu must die. It was a punishment not only for his role in the death of Humbaba and the Bull of Heaven, but for the very fact that he had dared to challenge the divine order. Enkidu's death was slow and painful, and as he lay dying, Gilgamesh was consumed by grief. For the first time in his life, the mighty king felt powerless. Enkidu's death was not just the loss of a friend. It was the loss of a part of Gilgamesh's own soul. In his grief, Gilgamesh was confronted with the one thing he had never truly considered, his own mortality. If even Enkidu, the man of such strength and courage, could die, what hope did Gilgamesh have of escaping death? The quest for immortality. Driven by fear and despair, Gilgamesh embarked on one final quest. This was not a quest for glory or riches, but for the secret of eternal life. He sought out Utnapishtim, the only man who had been granted immortality by the gods after surviving the Great Flood. Gilgamesh's journey was long and perilous. He traveled through mountains, crossed deadly rivers, and faced unimaginable dangers. Yet, his determination never wavered. He was driven by a singular desire to escape the fate that had befallen Enkidu. When he finally reached Utnapishtim, Gilgamesh learned a harsh truth. Immortality was not meant for men. Utnapishtim told him that death was a part of life, a fate that even kings and gods could not escape. Gilgamesh's quest had been in vain, but through his journey, he gained a new understanding of life and death. Conclusion. The legacy of Gilgamesh. Immortality is not found in living forever, but in the legacy we leave behind. Though Gilgamesh could not conquer death, he returned to Uruk with a newfound wisdom. He realized that true immortality lay not in eternal life, but in the impact one has on the world. His city, his people, his deeds, these would be his legacy. Through them, his name would live on long after he was gone. And so, the story of Gilgamesh has endured for millennia, a testament to the timeless nature of human struggle, friendship, and the search for meaning. In the end, Gilgamesh's tale is not just the story of a king, but the story of us all, of our hopes, our fears, and our quest for immortality, in a world where nothing lasts forever.